Hey everyone, welcome to Marketing Monday with the Watertown SBDC. Today's topic is all about on-page SEO, which we'll get into in a second. And I'm Nicole, friend of the SBDC, here with Liz and Erica from the SBDC. What's going on at the SBDC, guys? Anything exciting? You guys always have something exciting going on.
We always have exciting stuff going on, Nicole.
I know you do.
The most exciting thing right now is that our what is it? The word triannual, I guess. We do it 3 times a year. Entrepreneurial skills class is starting on April 19th. It's handily on your screen. It's free. It's via Zoom. It features SBDC staff and local working professionals. And if you have started a business and you want to grow it, or if you are about to start a business or even thinking about starting a business, please consider joining us. Everything will be recorded. So if you can't make the 5:30 p.m. Tuesday, Wednesday. Thank you. See, I knew I was lying. If you can't make those sessions, you can watch them later on a recording. So we hope that you consider joining us for that.
Yeah, and they're 5 sessions, right, Liz? So it's like Tuesday, Wednesday for 2 weeks, and then the last one I think is just on the Tuesday, May 10th. So it sounds like we're getting signups quickly. So if anybody's interested, they should go ahead and sign up because there is a certain limited capacity to this, right? Isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, well, we have a Zoom license for 500, but I don't think we have to worry about that. But there is a point of diminishing returns for attendees because part of the thing is the working professionals are there to answer your questions. So we have a marketing professional, a bookkeeper, we have a lawyer, we have an insurance broker, and we have Erica presenting the capstone class, which I'm so excited about because we do a lot at the SBDC, and I know I'm taking up your time, Nicole. I'll be brief, maybe. The SBDC, we do a lot of hard skills training. Like, here's how to do a DBA, and here's how to do accounting. Erica is going to lead this last workshop, kind of the capstone of the whole thing, in sort of the soft skills of entrepreneurship. How do you set boundaries? How do you juggle all the flaming hoops of fire that you're going to have to juggle as an entrepreneur? So we're really excited about this. We started it last year with the childcare project, and it went over so well that we decided to incorporate it into our regular offering. So please consider joining us if you can, and we look forward to working with you. It's Zoom, so of course there's a dog.
So it's been a morning, but I will say something. I don't know if you guys know about me. I majored in geology in college, and my only business training has been with an intensive, like the one you guys are holding with the SBDC that we had in Maine. And so it basically helped me write my business plan for this business that I'm running now, like 14 years later. So these kind of deep dives really give you a chance to connect with professionals and all that. So if you're considering starting a business and you don't have a business degree, I will say like this kind of class is super useful. Just this a little testimonial here from somebody who's taken something like it. So we continue, you guys, with the very fascinating discussion about search engine optimization. Now, I don't think most people think it's fascinating. I do, because that's, the kind of person I am.
Has to.
So
we're grateful for that.
Well, people often ask me, they say, we all want to like do what we can, right? There's a lot of things about search engine stuff that are out of our control, like whether Oprah links to us or not, right? And that is not in our control, last I checked. So the idea of on-page optimization is what you can do on your own website, which I think most people find pretty empowering, because the good news is there's a lot you can do on your own website. Because you can control what's on your own website. But I also just want to put the caveat in here that, you can do these things and it'll improve, but your website is a pretty small part of the internet. And, you'll get some gains, but it is important also that you interact with the other parts of the internet. I know people who are like, well, I did this and I tweaked that, and like, I got, 1% more. And it's like, that all helps. And a lot of the things we're going to talk about today are just things you should do anyway, because they're, search engines. Guess who's typing? People use search engines, right? So we want We want to make these changes for the people visiting our website or wanting to visit our website or wanting to learn about our companies. But there is also the rest of the internet. We talked about backlinks. So if somebody is catching this broadcast and wants to learn more about backlinks, feel free to check that previous broadcast out. And we talked about keywords. But today I also wanted to talk about the different factors that go into on-page optimization. And I know that sounds optimization. I think it just sounds so, I don't know, like difficult or really, yeah.
I think it's made people feel like, overwhelmed by what that, what that requires, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
So basically what we're going to do today, I wanted to share this resource because it's useful. I'm going to briefly show it on the screen so that people can, but we're going to go through these overall topics and talk about what's involved in them. But in case somebody wants to dive in a little bit more or learn more about this topic, this is called, this is a company, and there are people, believe it or not, who do this experiment where they're like, oh, I'm going to change the text on this thing and see how it changes my whole website. So there is a whole group of people who do these tests, and every year they update these ranking factors and how important they are relative to one another. So we're not going to get super in the weeds here, but I'm going to link this. This Moz site is a pretty good resource in general for search engine stuff. But what we're going to talk about here is we're going to basically be going through these sections and just talking about what they are. I know that writing is tiny, which is why I'm just showing the link on the screen, but it explains what each one of these things are on the page if you want to get more into the weeds. So just if you're someone like me who really likes this sort of thing, just know that exists. There's lots of other good resources, but I really like that one because it's a little bit visual, and I also find they explain things well.
Nicole,
yeah.
Can we just briefly touch on what is search engine optimization in case people haven't watched our last?
That's a really good point.
We discussed this in past broadcasts, so y'all really need to get to our YouTube library and watch everything. But you don't have time to do that now. So
good point. Search engine optimization is the practice of making sure that when people are looking for your product or service, that you're coming up as high as you can on search engine results pages, which they call SERPs, search engine results page.
Which people mostly know that as Google, right? Because we're all Googling. And so it's Google. Where do you come up in that rank? Are you up on the first half of the page, right? Like, yeah.
Right. Ideally, yeah. So Google, for example, shows you 10 results before you have to go on to the next page. And most people don't go on to that next page because, we all want to get to the information as quickly as possible. So your goal is to think about what kinds of things you want to be known for and make sure you're showing up, hopefully in the top 10 results for that, thing. And as we mentioned in a previous broadcast, it would be hard. Let's say you had a little tea shop. It would be hard for you to rank for tea because there's national brands that are trying to be the thing that people look for when they look for tea. But if you carried a certain kind of tea, like new green leaf tea or something, or like a specific kind, or if you provided, hand blended teas, Canton, New York, if there was a certain kind of thing you wanted to be known for, you obviously could probably rank for that. So sometimes search engine, it's a little bit of art, it's a little bit of science, it's a little bit of managing expectations. And honestly, it's like ongoing work. It's kind of like, we build our house and we're like, okay, my house is built. But there's always little projects to do, right? Always little tweaks you can be making. And as long as you kind of go in knowing that, you don't have a brand new house that has no problems, but you have one of those old houses with character that you got to work on a little bit, then we're good. So the idea with search engine optimization is making sure that you're taking steps to make sure your website does better and better over time. And there is a lot of people that wanted to try to take shortcuts or want to find little tricks. But the reality is that Google has thousands of people working in the search engine department, probably.
Sure.
And if you find a little loophole, the odds are that loophole is going to get closed relatively quickly, is pretty high. So rather than taking shortcuts here, we're talking about ways in general that you want to approach this topic, making your website work better for people and making it so that you obviously come up higher in search engine results. And, the reason people are obsessed with this is that they don't want to have to pay to be on the top of Google in ads all the time. So coming up organically, i.e. not paying, is something that's really important to a lot of businesses. So
yeah, and with all that in mind and all of your incredible tips that you're giving us about SEO, what I'm hearing from you right now is just that whole idea of it's always a work in progress, right? Like, it's not something you just do once. It's a thing that has to be looked at all the time for improvement. And also, we all have to be realistic, right? About our optimization and our rankings and that kind of thing based on, keywords and what people are typing in to find you.
Yeah. And, one of my colleagues once used the example of, an electric stove versus a gas stove. And like an electric stove heats up slowly, right? But it holds the heat longer. And a gas stove you can turn on and it gets hot relatively quickly. And if you're thinking of ads are like gas, you put on an ad and it's working right away. When you turn off the ad, also your benefits kind of stop pretty quickly. Whereas with search engine optimization, it can take you some time to heat that water. Your electric thing is going to take a little longer to heat up, but also when you turn it off, it's going to also take longer to cool down. So sometimes you're going to make these efforts and you're going to see the benefits of them, a while later. So it's kind of, I'm sort of like not necessarily, I'm a little instant gratification, but I'm sort of okay with this general idea of having to spend a little time on something and reaping the benefits. So I think most people actually who run small businesses are like that, because if they weren't, they wouldn't be running a small business, I don't think.
True.
So the first part of that page I was on is the idea of providing content or information or whatever you want to call it that's unique and valuable. So, for example, I have a blog where one of my offices is in Maine. And basically in Maine, everybody comes to Bar Harbor in the summer. Everybody knows like that's where people go on vacation. But the reality is if you go to Bar Harbor every summer, after a certain point, you're going to want to maybe do something else. And so what I started on my blog was a day trip series of day trips you could take from Bar Harbor. So if you wanted to use Bar Harbor as your home base, these places within a 2-hour drive that you could go see that maybe you hadn't thought about going to see before. So I wanted to sort of bring people to these smaller towns that had really cool stuff in them, but maybe people wouldn't think firsthand. And we get one of those blogs gets 20% of all of our website traffic. So the reality is that if you provide, and it's not, other people aren't writing this content. It's a little town. Like nobody's writing these like day trips. We're writing them. Mm-hmm. So if you see a unique piece of, something that you could provide. I did read a case study about this person who was trying to sell like fish, and stuff. And what they realized was that like, okay, they were looking around online for setting up a saltwater aquarium on a budget. It was something like that. And they realized that there was like really no article online about it. So they're like, I should write this. And they wrote it and it got more people to their website. And obviously they were able to kind of sell more products. I don't think you can really ship fish. Well, you must ship fish if you're a pet store, but I think they sold like aquariums and things like that too. But point being is if you're looking for something, or if you're understanding that people don't have this information to write it up. One of my friends started a tea company and I didn't realize I ordered it and it was loose leaf tea. And I got it and I panicked because I was like, how am I going to brew this? And so they went ahead and they wrote a whole thing on their website about different ways you can brew loose leaf tea without having to buy a whole separate apparatus for it.
Great example.
Like putting it in a French press. Oh yeah, I guess I could put it in the French press. I hadn't really thought about that. Oh, I forget what else. They had other ones. And I was like, coffee filter. Oh yeah, I have coffee filters. Like, anyway, so they have all these different things you can use. And yeah, when you're ready, when you get into tea and you're ready to buy the tea infuser, I think it's called the tea infuser. I think that's what it's called. When you're ready to buy the tea infuser, but at least you can kind of start from somewhere. So providing unique and valuable content that people are looking for is a, I guess, kind of a no-brainer. I put it number one because I was like, this is like the Captain Obvious tip, but just some ideas to get your mind going that if you can't find the information and you know it in your head, your customers probably want to know it too. And so you can provide it on your site. Have you guys ever run into examples like that?
Well, what's coming to mind, I'm not going to share an example right now. I might think of something. Liz probably has 10 of them, but just kidding. But what's coming to mind is what's coming to mind is Nicole, I'm like curious about what your opinion is about, relevancy to the product or service that you're offering. Like, how important is it? Is there anything that's like, any time when something doesn't necessarily have to be relevant, or should you really try to make it something like how to brew tea otherwise kind of thing if you sell tea?
Well, I think for them, it just became, I think other people were the same as me. We ordered tea and we just assumed it was in a tea bag because we didn't think, because like, I don't know a lot about tea, but I was like, oh yeah, I'll try this. My friends are running this business. I'll put in an order. And then I got it and I sort of panicked. So I think this was a good customer service thing for them to have too. So if they got an inquiry or something on Facebook, people being like, oh, I wasn't expecting loose leaf tea, they could just pop that over and be like, oh, we got you. We got some different ways for you to deal with this. But I think it should be somewhat related to your business. Now, I will say that, I don't know, if you sell insurance or something, and maybe you can talk about insurance things, of course, but, if you're within a community and nobody's really talking about some things that are going on in the community, I think that that's okay. If I run a local boutique or something and I want to talk about what's going on, in downtown Watertown or something, I think that that's sort of related, right? It's not directly what I'm selling, but I'm in that community. So I think that that's, if it's completely random, I think most people would be like, where's that coming from? But I think it should be.
It's like, think about your audience, right? Like who wants to listen to you about what, kind of thing. So, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I feel like this is a pretty straightforward one and we can come to it if we have more concepts, but sort of the second general idea from that link I shared earlier was this idea of a good user experience, which a lot of people abbreviate to UX. And so what that means is like,
I do now.
What is UX?
UX.
User experience.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah. Well, I'd actually, hold on. I'm going to I have this graphic that I really like for UX and I meant to load it in here. It's on my desktop, so I will throw it in here. But the idea with user experience, it's how people use your site versus like how you think. There we go. It's right here. All right, you guys, this one I feel like is my favorite summary of what UX design is. So you have how the thing is designed versus how people are using it, so I thought that was a good summary of UX personally.
It's a very nice illustrative example of
I love it.
who can't relate to that, right? Yeah.
We can all relate to that. Now, so your website obviously has to have good user experience. If people get to your website and they're like, whoa, or where do I click or whatever, you're going to lose those people. So once people get to your website, setting up a good user experience is, now there's a lot of things that you can do. One thing is the lowest tech thing you can do, by the way, is to just, and I did this when we were launching our e-commerce site. I had pizza and beer, and I threw a usability party, and I had people come over. I gave them a slip of paper with a task on it, and I recorded their screen as they were doing the task. And then I gave them, pizza and beer just to get some feedback about how other people were navigating the website. Now, if you do not feel like doing this, there are these usability testing tools, and the main one being optimize.google.com. So if you use Google Analytics, you can actually use this, and what it'll do, and I have it loaded, but I'm not sure if I have time to go through it the way I want to. But basically, for example, let's say you want to test button color. You want to test whether a red button does better or a blue button. And I know what you're thinking. What does it matter? Their companies, though, spend thousands of dollars testing this. So like, I think Patagonia a few years ago switched its button colors and they got 17% higher sales by just switching their button color. So, and it could not be exactly that, but it was something like that. So what people call this is A/B testing. So what they'll do is they'll make a page, so you go to the shopping page or whatever, and half the people will get the regular shopping page and half the people will get the shopping page where I change the button color. Now you only want to change one factor at a time, right? Because you want to be able to compare. And so you run this for a period of time, a couple of weeks, a month, and you get your data back, and it will say, oh, this page performed better or this page performed better. And so over time, you can change things like what the buttons say, what the button color is, fonts, how the page is laid out, and all of that. Now,
does something like optimize.google.com, does it also suggest like things to try to change?
So
because how do you even know where to go? Like I wouldn't have thought to change a button to, you know.
Well, as you're going through it, it'll say, what do you want to test? And there's like a drop down that asks you like, I want to test the button color. I want to test the button text. I want to test the headline. I want to test the, now, if you're starting, like if you either have a website you're ready to just throw out with, you know, the baby with the bathwater on because you just don't like it, or you're starting from scratch, there are some tools that will let you lay out a page like from scratch and show it to people. And I will say some of the paid tools I think would give you suggestions. This one's free, and it's relative. I say easy to use. You still have to set up an A/B test. Like I'm not saying it's like something that, you know, somebody who can barely use a computer would be able to do. But
yeah. So it sounds like at least they're giving you suggestions about what to you know, potentially test, and it may just depend on what your website is looking like, or if you really think, you know, so you have to do some analytical reasoning to go, okay, you know, am I kind of concerned that my headline might not be, you know, right, and do I want to test that versus a button or something like that? So
right. Okay. And sometimes even changes in copy, changes in just what the text is written can also yield changes, not just design stuff. So, I mean, when you think about user experience, I think a lot of us, we think about design, we think about colors and all that, but also a large part of it is the content, you know, and okay, if is moving that button to the upper right corner, are people clicking it more often when they find it there?
And you might be covering this already, but I had it in my head earlier. What about where the content is? Like same content, but should it be on the home page or our about page or something like that? Is there a difference that way when it comes to SEO?
I think it's really interesting. A lot of people want to put everything on their homepage, and as the person helping them through their website content, I have to kind of rein them in. They're like, we should put this on the website, on the homepage. We should put this on the homepage. There's this idea that everyone gets to the homepage and then goes somewhere else. But in the case of that website I was telling you about, my local blog, less than 10% of people even get to our homepage. You know, because, well, they're coming in off of different things. They did a search and they ended up on a blog, or they clicked on a link from Facebook to a product. Like, I mean, there's just so many different ways they can get onto the website. And let's see.
So would it be reasonable to say, sorry, Liz, would it be reasonable to say that if you have a link that's really, you know, with a big click over rate that you want to, and you want some important information out there, to put the information on that page? I don't know.
Yeah. So things you can look at are, and most website stats software has this, including Google Analytics. There's what's called a heat map, and it shows you where people's cursors have been. So you can kind of see like what parts of the website people are sort of like at versus not getting to. And then the other thing you can look at is your exit pages. So if there's like a mass exodus off of a particular page, then maybe that tells you there might be a problem on that page. Now, we don't necessarily know what that problem is. Like, it's not like, oh, you know, it's not going to tell us like, oh, this is the problem. But
darn it.
Gives you enough data to be curious about it, right?
Yeah.
Well, you know, I've often heard it said that a homepage should be like a jewel box. It's interesting and enticing, and you want to open it up and see what's inside. I've also seen pages that looked great. They were jewel boxes, but then you open up, you're like, oh, well, this is full of, you know, dime store jewelry. So, you know, it's that balance of how does it look with what else is in there. And if you're making them click just to find nothing or nothing of real value, then stick it on your homepage. And
you know, and there was a trendy thing a couple years ago where it was like the one-page website that was really scrolly, that had everything on. And you know, if you have a really simple business, you can set up something like that. And there was a navigational menu on the top, and when you clicked on it, it would just bring you to the part of that page. I've seen people do that. But if you just have a really small business, like you're a hair salon and you need people to physically come in to like get it, you know, it's not like you're really selling a lot of stuff on the website. You just want to show people what your hours are, where you're at, what your haircut prices start at or whatever. sometimes that sort of one-page scrolling thing is totally fine. I just wanted to show you guys, this is just what it looks like. So I went ahead time and I called it this. I called it the Book Now form because there's this Book Now page on the website, and I've always wondered like if I could make it better. And so I made the button colors this teal color, but what I thought is, what if I made them more navy, like one of our other branding colors? Like, would the buttons be more noticeable if I made it a different color? And what I can actually do, this is the original page, and it gets 50% weight, which means that 50% of the visitors will see it. But as you see, it says you haven't changed anything on the different button color page. So I can actually edit. Come on. And what it's going to do is it's going to bring me to my, it's not going to, it's only sharing one tab at a time. I'm having just a really technical day. It's bringing me there. Okay, cool. And what it actually lets me do is like, look, it's showing me the code view. I don't know. It's like thinking real hard because I'm streaming while I'm doing this. It's like, you're asking me a lot here, Nicole. But I can actually go to my little teal button here. And look, there is the button code right here. And I can edit this element. So I can actually make changes right within Google. Now, your website software also might have a way for you to be able to do A/B testing setups like this. But just know that that's a possibility. And it's so funny. I will be sitting on meetings with people. Usually it's large companies. And they're discussing, well, I think we should put this here. And I think we should put this there. And I feel like saying, we could just test it. Like, we could debate this all day long, or we can just put up a quick A/B test, see how it does, and see what our customers think.
It's a really cool tool. It really is.
Yeah.
There's huge value. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's one of those things that you don't really, like I said, I'm one of those people that's like, I'm not going to be more likely to click a button if it's green than if it's blue. But I mean, we don't want to feel like we're the kind of people who fall for stuff, but like, we have a brain, and our brain has certain ways of analyzing situations. Yeah. So don't be right. So don't be like intimidated by the idea of creating a good user experience. These tools, which I mentioned here, some of them are that optimized thing is a free thing. The paid tools have more analysis, and they have easier ways to build pages and things like that. Like, they have more features, but there's plenty of tools out there, and your website software might actually come with a way for you to do UX or testing, or I think it's called A/B testing, because show one person A, show one person B. See how it goes. And we're not going to talk about this one, but I did want to mention this was one of the things on the SEO Moz page, having the keywords that people are looking for, or the key phrases be on the page. It's helpful. So if you want to go and learn more about keywords, we did a whole broadcast about them just because there's a little nuance to it. Number 4, we want to make it so the content is easy to share. So you probably noticed that a lot of sites you go to have like those social media sharing buttons and things like that, because what we want is, if someone reads something or sees something on our site and thinks this is great, we don't want to make them be, okay, I'm going to find the URL. I'm on my mobile phone. I'm going to copy it. Okay. Did I copy the whole thing? Okay. Now I'm going to open this up, and we just want to click the share button and just like make it happen. And you can by the way, most website builders have this like share functionality that you might be just simply having to turn it on. And you can even pick like, I want people to be able to share this to Facebook, to Twitter, and via email or something. You can pick which ones it lets people share as, or you can just let people share as, anything, which we want to make it easy. And it's funny, I just kind of threw one on my website a few years ago, and I didn't really, and I see that it's like been clicked a few times. I'm like, okay, you just shared my homepage like 10 times. Interesting.
It's pretty good.
I didn't think there was anything particularly interesting on my homepage, but here we are. But I see that more often on like blog posts or specific pages of, information, because that's more interesting for people to share anyway, especially if you have a lot of stuff on your homepage, right? It's like, it could be overwhelming. Like when you, it's like, I don't know, do you guys have friends who will send you links to stuff and you're like, okay, there's a lot, like, what do you want me to look at here? Like, what part of this page? Anyway, so I find it's easier to put them on individual pages, not just your homepage, because it might be more interesting to share that content anyway.
But especially a blog or something, because people want to share blogs because it helps them with their content, on there. So, especially on pages where you really do have that like unique offering or, content, value content, that's makes sense to have that share button there for sure.
Or event, you know, an event, another thing that you want them to go to, you know, what musical act is playing at your winery next Thursday night, not your winery's webpage. So, you know, you just have to be really, you know, careful about that. Not everybody is willing or interested in digging. And I think the phone thing is so true. I've gotten to the point, and, you know, I'm old, but I don't even want to look at some stuff on my phone because it's such a limiting view. I'll wait until I can get on my laptop, computer. And, you know, I know that's not a good attitude, but sometimes that's how I feel.
If the website's built in such a way that you can't look at it while on your phone, that's not your fault. We'll get to that in a second. That's later on.
That's a big issue. Right?
It is a huge issue. You know, and this next issue is also kind of a big idea. So looks good on all devices is like 2 more down. There's only 7 total. So if you're watching this, you know, there's 7 total. We're on 5. So yeah, great. So accessibility is a big deal because, and I think I've told you about my accessibility. Did I ever tell you guys my story about not being accessible and feeling like a complete jerk about it? So I was sending an email newsletter about an event I had coming up, and I was lazy. So I just went and grabbed the event flyer and put it as a thing in the template and pressed send. One of my subscribers wrote back to me and said, "Hey, Nicole, like you sent a blank email, but I'm blind. So maybe I just am missing something."
Ouch.
Yeah.
I could have put in the descriptive text what that image was, or I could have laid it out. I could have spent 5 minutes actually laying it out the way it should have been before I sent it. And I'll tell you, ever since I have never sent an email like that again because it made me feel like a jerk. And there are lots of people for lots of reasons who need to access your website, and they all have different abilities, and we can't necessarily exclude people from that. So there is this free tool. It's called Wave Website Accessibility Evaluation Tool. And so what I'm just going to do, and I meant to do this ahead of time, but here's hoping that it's not terrible. It's going to show us accessibility issues that are on this page and tell us how to fix them. So it's loading here, and it's showing us, and the things that are in red are like, usually they have it kind of color coded as, oh, they kind of changed the way that this looks. So if I hover over this issue, it says very low contrast. There is low contrast between the text and the background colors. So this text is like a teal color and my background is white. So I might want to make that a more darker color. And that's the hover color or whatever is this blue color. But it's telling me, everything tells me linked image with alternative text. Alternative text is present. Okay, so that's a good thing. Green is good. Yay. So alternative text. So it says anchor space. So if for some reason this image isn't loading for somebody, it'll say anchor space in text. So anyway, so you can do this on your own website and it will tell you the link contains no text. Oh, I just linked something and I needed to add some descriptive text to that link. So it's kind of cool to do this, and you can kind of see your website from maybe a different angle than you've thought of. And like I said, this is a free tool, and there are definitely other ways to make your website accessible, to have transcripts for all your videos, to have stuff that's really well interlinked, to have the high contrast when there's images and buttons, to have text for visual elements that might not load if someone is in a screen reader or a more simplified web browser. So things like images or buttons or any kind of fancy elements, explaining what's there so people don't feel like they're missing anything. So there's plenty of ways to make your website more accessible.
Yeah, I just want to just say that, you know, this is obviously, everybody knows this is really, really important. And I think that the tools, once again, are so cool because most people who are just getting a business, you know, started aren't going to, you know, you don't necessarily, these are not in the forefront of your mind, but it's so important. I mean, and I'll to that point, I mean, Liz and I both worked for a large university where we got major training on accessibility, especially as it relates to you know, your website or how you're communicating in any way online.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, it is to be taken seriously. So it's, you know, it's good to know that you can get on, use these things to make it happen, even if you have no idea what you need to do to make it. Those tools are there. Yeah.
But it'll suggest, it'll say, like, just like it showed me the text, this isn't high contrast enough. Like, okay, so I need to like just up the, you know, the contrast so that it's a little bit easier to see. Okay. Yep. And then I can run it through again and see if I made it, you know, good enough. And the thing is, I know this is good to do for people, but it's part of the search engine rankings. Yeah. So the search engine gods will reward you for taking this effort, in addition to also you being able to just reach more people in general. So
what was that app again?
It's called a Wave. Hold on. Yeah, I'll throw the link on the screen really quick. I meant to. Sometimes, you know, I prepare certain text or visuals that I never show. Like I had a few last week that I never even showed, and then sometimes I like forget to make them. So this is the actual link. I'll put it on the screen here. If you just, you know, Google Wave web accessibility tool or something like that, it's the first thing that comes up, you know, after the ads show up. Obviously, there's a lot of paid services that will also help you make your site more accessible. Cool. So, and this one just happens to be a pretty good free one. So, so check that out. And then,
Nicole, I just want to say, this is not just for handicap accessibility. This is ease of use for everyone. Mm-hmm. And if you think, you know, well, I don't know, I'm not going to have people who need this. Well, you don't know who's looking at it, and you don't know what other people people in your customers' lives, and they may appreciate the fact that even though they're not visually impaired, that it would be a useful website for a visually impaired person. So you have to think. Mm-hmm. One thing that keeps coming to me watching this broadcast is that proper SEO is macro, right, big picture, and micro. Mm-hmm. So not a lot of things are both simultaneously, but this is one of those things, because you're trying to get people to your website, but and that's macro, but once it's there, you need to accommodate what they need and fit into what they want. And, you know, one of the things I hear all the time is that when someone says, look at our website, all of our jobs are posted there. Where are they? How many layers do you have to dig for vital information? So this is really about optimizing the use for everyone, not just a small subset of people who you think may not be your customers.
Yeah, right. And I remember I spent some time talking to a guy. He was an artist, and he didn't want a navigational menu because he thought it would look ugly. And what I was trying to tell him is that, like, we needed to give people ways to get to his portfolio and his events and stuff like that. And that the navigational menu on a website either goes to the left side or it goes on the top. Generally goes on the top these days because of mobile. But, you know, and it's kind of, you know, some things we have to sometimes make, I mean, sacrifices is way too strong a word, but we sometimes have to make choices. Yeah, compromises about things that work well for the person using the site versus like what we think is, you know, an aesthetic we're going for. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it is like I said, you know, you don't have to do all these things at once. You can slowly pick at them. That's the idea with just knowing that these tools exist, or knowing that these are the kind of considerations that Google and other search engines take when they're looking at your website and deciding if it's good or not. The more things you make good, the more likely you are to get up there. So like I said, it's a marathon, not a sprint, running a business and maintaining a website. So, you know, the 6th out of 7 things that we're talking about here today is this general idea of metadata, page titles and descriptions, basically where you put written content that like regular eyeballs don't necessarily see. So, for example, most website builders that I use, they let you, you know, lay out a page, right, with content and stuff. And then they have a page title and a page description. Now, when you go into Google, you'll notice that the page title always takes up 1 line and the description always takes up 2 lines, right? Like it just shows you, it's not like it gives you one huge description for one website and whatever. We get a certain amount of characters to summarize what's on that page. And so writing unique page titles and descriptions for your pages based on what's on those pages is, I think, a pretty good use of your time. And we've definitely increased clients because it gets people to the pages they need to see without, like Liz says, having to go somewhere and be like, where do I click? So, so having a page called, current job openings at, our organization is always hiring talented people. Here is where we post our job listings, internal contract positions and other ways that we work, whatever. So by summarizing that page in that particular way, now the whole website isn't about their job descriptions, that jobs page is. So you can write each one of these for each individual page. And also, and Erica mentioned, I think metadata sometime, I think it was last week or the week before or something with keywords, maybe that's what it was. But this idea that you can also put, keywords as to what this page is about, it doesn't have to be in the page description, but you can put keywords in. And again, Google does not let you put infinite keywords. It'll cut you off at a certain point. It's typically for these things, it's somewhere between 140 and 180 characters. So you'll prioritize which ones are kind of most important. And if you want to shove a bunch of extra ones at the end when Google cuts you off, like that's fine. It's not necessarily going to hurt anything, but it's going to prioritize those ones that are there. So there are places you can put keywords that are not necessarily written in the content that people can see. So just know that exists, and most website builders I've seen have the ability to pretty easily change those, either in the SEO section of the builder or on the individual pages themselves.
And just as a quick reminder, and we do have a broadcast about this, so go check it out on our YouTube page. But keywords, it's like the who, what, where, when, how, and why. Who are you? What do you do? Where are you? But go back, if you're thinking about doing this, go back and look at that. The broadcast we did on keywords, they're all on Watertown Oswego SBDC YouTube channel, which is beautifully organized with playlists, thanks to Nicole Willett.
I love a good playlist. Bingeable content on the Watertown SBDC's YouTube channel.
That's right. Can't get enough of us on Mondays. You can watch us all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Or just all day on Monday.
Or just all day Monday. That's right. And our safety series is on there too. So
yeah.
But there's a bunch of stuff on there.
Yeah. And we'll obviously keep adding broadcasts as we go along here. And so just know that there are places that you put in keywords or titles and descriptions that maybe not everybody is seeing when they look at the page, but it is important to take time to fill those out. Just think about anytime you have an opportunity to put some information somewhere, I say take it, because it's free. And hopefully you don't have 10,000 pages or something, and it won't take you that long to write these. Maybe a good day, slow day at the office.
So is it fair to say that if you do have a web builder, that the point is to be talking to them about this and making sure that they're going to do this page per page?
Yeah, for sure.
Page, yeah. And then what about if you're managing your own page, like on a Wix or something? I mean, is that something you can get to, right? As far as changing your metadata?
Yeah, I'm just seeing descriptions in Wix. I bet what's great about all of these, there's a whole, there's a whole tutorial. It's so funny. I don't know why it's decided to not let me just share all the tabs on my screen. Maybe it also thinks that I am sharing that I have too many tabs open. So it looks like,
there you go.
Yeah. So it looks like you can change them page by page.
Yeah.
What's this page about? Add a description. So go through and just fill them out, because each one of your pages, obviously they're all about your business, but they're all slightly different subject matters. And if someone's looking for the page, you might as well, send them to a place where they can actually, find the information on that actual page.
No, truly. I mean, gone are the days at the home, of the homepage. Really, you have to think about every single page kind of as single because of the way people are getting to you.
Yeah, and like I said, my blog, most of the traffic goes to that particular blog post I was telling you about versus the homepage. But most people do get the most traffic to their homepage, but not everybody gets there. It could be between 20-ish% of your traffic is going to your homepage, maybe. So we can't assume that everyone goes to your homepage and then picks a path, because they're coming in off all kinds of different things. So whatever page they're looking at, we want to make sure that it looks good and is doing what we need it to do to encourage them to stay there. And then this is the last kind of final thing that's actually pretty important, that the website looks good and works on all devices. And so there's this thing that we in the web design industry, we call it responsive design. So it's this idea of a design that adjusts to the screen that it's on dynamically. And we started, honestly, my company, we started responsive designing in 2013 before anyone was asking us to, because we just saw that's where things were headed. And it was funny because there was all these components that weren't built to be responsive yet. So it kind of limited us on what we could do. But yeah, so the reality is that, you know, building a website that looks good on different devices is really important. Now, Google has a testing tool, but I didn't want this to be an all Google show. So what I'm going to do is show us a tool here that allows us to test basically what our website looks like on different kinds of screens. Even if we don't, you don't have to go out and buy every device. Okay, just save your money. You don't need to buy 20 phones and test your website on all of them. There is a way that you can test it on, you know, so this is, like I said, this is one testing tool. Google has one. Just look up, you know, testing website mobile friendliness, or, you know, just something like that. Mobile test.
Compatibility is another word, right? In this whole.
Yeah, totally. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to anchorspace.com. So I can actually pick my device. Yeah, I have iPhone 12 Pro Max on, and the second. Oh, okay. So this is, and I can pick a secondary one I want to test on. So let's just say a Google Pixel 5. We'll try 2 mobile devices and we'll see if it looks different. So we're going to run a live test here. And so, like I said, these tools are free to use. So there, do I have to click accept? Hold on. I didn't accept cookies. All right,
Nicole, I just want to thank you for being so brave and using your website.
No, I have problems too. Okay. So this is
we appreciate it.
And it's really funny because I'll have clients who will be like, okay, but this picture is cutting off this way. And what I really try to do with them is figure out what kind of device they have. So it looks, to me, I can make it look exactly how they want on their screen. Because it is, as you see here, these are both mobile devices. And these pictures are supposedly centered, according to my code, within the what are we calling it now? It's not a column. Anyway, within the little thing that they're in, they're centered, supposedly. But it looks slightly different.
Yep, sure.
On different, you know, and because they're slightly different size. And if I want to, it looks like it'll let me scroll. So I can actually see if there's any problems here.
Nothing's cut off. That's what used to happen all the time, right? Just get cut off. Yeah.
Exactly. And this, I know this particular theme is like notorious for having white space. I am the cobbler with the kid with crappy shoes. Okay. Like I've been wanting to redo this website for like 4 years, but whatever. Anyway, it works. It's fine. I'll make it better later. But yeah, you can always test, you know, what your site looks like on different devices, or you can simply, and I would do it if it would let me share my whole screen. You can take your window, you know, whatever, and you can just resize the window and it should dynamically move stuff over, and that will show you if the design is responsive or not. Now there's obviously like these different, we call them breakpoints, where like, okay, so when it gets to 800 pixels wide, the menu is going to move up and turn into a button that says menu. So we code these things to kind of change at different sizes. So sometimes there can be a little wonkiness at a certain size. And if you notice that, just tell your web developer. We really try to test in all the browsers and on all the sizes and whatever, but sometimes we miss something. Honestly, it's not intentional. So if you're noticing that on your like first generation iPad, something looks weird or something, just tell us. We're good with it. But you can independently test stuff on your own too, with these kind of tools. And like I said, Google has one too if you're a Google person, but there's also, all of these things can be independently tested on things that are not Google tools if you want. So all this to say is those are kind of the different aspects of it. And I'm going to just throw on the screen now that original page that I was referencing. If you want to go there, you can see more detail about any one of those things. I didn't want to get too granular, obviously, on a live stream, because I feel like already this is a little granular. But if you want to kind of dive into any one of these topics a little bit more, we just went through the general stuff with our little the general sections today. So
yeah. I think great information, not granular.
No,
yeah,
information. You know, if anybody's thinking, well, people look at my website on a computer. No, they don't. For a lot of people,
we can test that. We can test it.
Right. This is your computer. This is their only computer. So at the SBDC, we get a lot of requests from people who want help with, say, New York State forms, which are not mobile friendly. Hint, hint to whoever's watching from New York State, except for Renee, because I know you don't control that. You know, and government entities are often the last to change. They're big. They have to serve everyone. But as a small business, you can be nimble and you can be seen as a leader. And think about this. You know, your people are on vacation up in this area, and they have, you know, a 9-year-old in the back seat with the phone, and they say, "Find us a good pizza place." You want to make sure, or, you know, oh, I need a dry cleaner. I have an emergency. We're here for a wedding, and, you know, your dad spilled something on his blazer, and we need to get. So think about, not everybody is sitting behind a computer, and people of all ages and abilities are using search engines, writ broadly, not just Google. No one uses Bing, though. No, that's not true.
That's not true, actually. A lot of people use Bing more than you would think.
It's a very interesting demographic divide about who uses what, because I've read a few articles about it.
Oh, definitely. But to Liz's point, I just looked it up to just see and it's about 60% average of website visits are mobile versus desktop. And so we had that crossover. There was like the line of like desktop versus mobile, and it crossed over about 2017, 2018 into 50-50. And then it just kept going to mobile. So, and if you don't believe us or think it's different for your website, just look into your web stats software and click on devices, and it'll show you what devices are visiting your website and how long, and look at not just the number of devices, but how long they spend on your site. And if your site is not mobile friendly, you'll notice that you have mobile visitors and they spend 10 seconds on your website and leave or something.
Yeah.
So you can independently verify. And if you get those spammy emails, in case you haven't watched the previous broadcast, if you get those spammy emails of people who say that your website is terrible in search engines, I get them 4 or 5 times a week. So you're in good company there. They're saying general things, but you can independently verify any of the claims that they say. Oh, the link on this page is broken. Oh, your website isn't mobile friendly. Oh, you know, anything that they say in that generic email that they're sending to 10,000 other people, it probably isn't true, but even if it is, you could independently verify it. And to that effect, and I hope this is cool, I meant to ask you guys before this broadcast. So our final broadcast about SEO is next week. And I have I'm calling it 10 free tools to make your website better. And I have like some really nice little testing tools for other things we didn't get into, like text readability and things like that. So I hope that that's okay. Awesome. I was going to kind of show them around because I like them. And you know, they didn't quite fit into any one of these 3 categories. They were kind of, so you can take this as all the random stuff that doesn't quite fit neatly into one of these 3 categories we talked about in the SEO month. I want to kind of bring into next broadcast. So
sounds like they're just as important to know about. So
well, it'll feel a little random, but it'll be fun. It'll be like a meal of all appetizers. Just
nothing wrong with that.
Trying things. So yeah, but that's all I've got. Do you have anything else to close us out about kind of things people can do to improve their websites for search engines?
Well, you can always call your SBDC and set up an appointment with your advisor, and we can help you with that. And again, I've said it before, but go back to our YouTube channel, and everything's about 45 minutes. It's not a huge time investment, but you can watch it on your phone while you have your laptop open, so you can and stop it. Right, you can't stop this because it's live. You're getting us unfiltered, but you can stop it and freeze that frame and get to the guts of it on your desktop while you're still watching, and really do this. It's Nicole, one of the things that I keep telling people when I invite them to watch this broadcast is most of the stuff we talk about is not traditional marketing, sell the sizzle, right? It's all the back of the house, You like to call it the marketing nerdy stuff. You know, it's the wonky, but it's the important piece.
Well, you know, and I think you guys have done a good job, and you guys bring a lot of great, like, sort of tactical, you know, overall strategy stuff to things. And I'm used to like being in the weeds of my own stuff. So like, you know, it's a really nice mixture of content. And I think both are important. But I think this is just a topic I just see people. I mean, I met a client who was like paying $500 a month to some SEO firm. And I said, "Oh, what are they doing for you?" And they're like, "Well, they won't tell me." And I was like, "Well, that's weird." And so what I want to do is just be that person that's saying, "Listen, like if someone's not telling you what they're doing with the money that you're giving them, that's weird." And I understand if it's like, I'm not going to, you know, I take, you know, like what exact tools do you use and all. And I get it. Like, you know, if I've spent years kind of figuring it out, I don't necessarily want to be like, "Oh, here's everything." But I just kind of want to demystify this and say, like, you can independently verify any of these claims people are making, and you can actively be making your website better, even without necessarily knowing all the code and super detailed back end stuff. A lot of it is about people, because people use search engines.
Right.
Yeah.
There it is. Talk about illustrating basically our whole series in one graphic. There it is. Right.
It's my favorite UX graphic. Every time I have to explain UX to people, I just show them that, and they're like, "Oh, okay, I get it."
Funny.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. Thanks so much, you guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Nicole. It was awesome.
Thanks, Nicole. And thanks, everybody. And we'll see you next week for our last SEO optimization broadcast.
All right. Take care, everyone.
And then it's April. We don't even know what we're doing yet, but it's a surprise for all of us, including me. So
we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out.
We always do.
All right.